Hi everybody, my name is Nikita. You might know my human, Mrs. Agnor, or at least you might think you know her. I'm here to tell you all about the things you probably didn't know about your teacher. So sit back, relax, and join me on this crazy adventure of Mrs. Agnor's life. Like all humans, Mrs. Agnor was born a cute, hairless puppy. I think humans call them babies. She was born in a really cool state called Ohio, but when she was in second grade, her family moved to Japan for 2 years. Mrs. Agnor and her brother went to school there, and they were the only ones that spoke English. Since Mrs. Agnor couldn't understand the teachers, she had to be pulled out of class every day for language tutoring. She didn't like feeling so different from all her classmates. Living in Japan was a big change for her. My human and her family moved back to Ohio after 2 years. Mrs. Agnor was so happy to be back, but she kind of missed going on adventures. Fortunately, Mrs. Agnor's family had a really cool tradition where kids in the family can choose anywhere in the world they want to visit on their 13th birthday. Man, those were some awesome parents. I wish my human would take me on a vacation. Anyways, Mrs. Agnor loves adventures, so for her 13th birthday, she chose to visit Africa. She went on a safari and met lots of different people and cultures. Even though she was different than everybody in Africa, just like she was different than her Japanese friends, Mrs. Agnor didn't feel sad or uncomfortable this time. My human loved learning about the different cultures and meeting the awesome new people. My human came back to Ohio and started planning the many new adventures she would go on next. When she turned 18 years old, Mrs. Agnor moved away from her family and went to college at the best university in the world, the Ohio State University, in case you were wondering. She was able to go on lots of cool adventures in college. She went on an archaeology dig in Belize, where she excavated Mayan ruins. She worked at a children's hospital in Brazil. Mrs. Agnor even worked with orangutans in Malaysia. She loved adventures so much that she decided to join the army to go on even more places and meet even more interesting people. The army moved Mrs. Agnor all the way to Texas. She went on so many fun adventures exploring Texas. She got to see Austin, the Texas state capital, the Alamo in San Antonio, and even watch the Dallas Cowboys play football. But the biggest adventures she went on with the army were her deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. I was pretty sad when she went on those adventures because she wasn't allowed to bring me with her, and she was gone a whole year both times. My human went to Afghanistan in 2012, and it changed her life. She loved the adventures, but she really loves teaching her soldiers and watching them learn. This adventure taught my human that the army was full of fun things, but the adventure she really wanted to do next was to go home and become a teacher. Mrs. Agnor flew back to Texas after she was done in Afghanistan. She adopted a new human without even asking me, but he's pretty nice and gives me lots of treats, so I was okay with him sticking around. Besides, he gave my human a shiny ring, and my human calls him her husband, so I guess that means he'll be living with us for a while. This husband and my human decided to move us away from Texas. We all got into a car and drove forever until we stopped at a place called Utah. My human said that we were going to live in this Utah for a while so she could learn how to be a teacher. I guess teaching human children might be harder than teaching me. So here we are, my human, her husband, and me living in Utah, and that is the amazing true story of Mrs. Agnor's life. My human will probably go on many more adventures, but I have a feeling most of them will be teaching adventures from now on. Maybe you'll be a part of her next adventure.